After 2 days of rocket violence, um, Israel and some Palestinian terrorist groups in Gaza have reached a ceasefire agreement mediated by a few countries, including the United States, I believe Egypt,
Switzerland.
the United Nations. Oh, it was, sorry, not the United States. Egypt, the United Nations, Norway, and Switzerland, the kings of neutrality. You want to invade Switzerland? Screw you! We have mountains, buddy! You're not getting in here.
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of people questioning the ceasefire, and there are a lot of people who basically think that all it's going to do is give time for these groups to regroup, to get more ammunition, to get more weapons, and to come back at Israel harder.
Really, it also gives the IDF time to recover, though, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, and the Iron Dome didn't come close to stopping all of the rockets that were coming into Israel. There were, houses of civilians that were destroyed. There were people who were injured and killed. I don't live there. I can't speak to what is good public policy in Israel. The leaders of Israel and the people who live there have to make those determinations for themselves.
Of course.
Now, I had a former Facebook friend who basically liked to say that Jews around the world should expect to be attacked, physically attacked, because of the policies of the Israeli government, which is like saying that white people around the world should expect to be attacked for the policies of Donald Trump. It's a stupid, ridiculous anti-Semitic sentiment, but it's one that a lot of people share. Like somehow Jews around the world are responsible for the behavior of the Netanyahu government. I mean, a court in Germany ruled that a man's setting fire to a synagogue was protected political speech because he was a Muslim and he said that he hated what Israel was doing, so he burned down a synagogue.
That's not speech. That's vandalism. And an act of violence.
And arson.
And arson, yes.
But there's become this point of view where hurting Jews around the world is an okay response to you're not liking what the government of Israel is doing. And that is obviously, again, anti-Semitic and ridiculous, but this is what people have come to.
So, the defense minister, Avigdor Lieberman of Israel, has resigned over the ceasefire, and the Jewish Home Party, which has 8 seats in the government, is saying that if their leader, Naftali Bennett, is not named as his replacement, then they will leave Netanyahu's coalition. Now, for those who do not know, with Avigdor Lieberman leaving, Netanyahu's government now only has 61 of 120 seats. For my U.S. viewers who do not understand a parliamentary system, unlike our system where third parties don't matter, in countries like Israel or Britain, there are 2 parties with most of the power, but minor parties are also significant to them, and give them their lesser power in order to allow them to secure a majority. And that majority then elects a prime minister. So Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel belongs to the Likud party. However, his coalition also includes other parties, including, I might be wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, Jewish Home, Shas, and a couple of others.
again, this is all internal Israeli politics, and they have to figure out what is best for them and what is best for the people of Israel. And I don't think that people around the world get to Monday morning quarterback their decisions. I know there are people who think that, basically Israel should go in and should put in a complete crackdown in Gaza and, establish full martial law and basically force them to behave like anything but terrorists. And I don't think that works. I don't think that would appeal either to the Israeli government and the people it has to send into harm's way, or to, governments around the world. There has to be some kind of solution.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the segment where we would talk about questions. Now, we didn't get any comments on the last episode, but I did get some comments outside of the video from a family friend named Becky Truluck. So there is a lot to unpack here. First of all, she talked about first, he didn't agree with the 3,000 people who picketed Trump coming. I think 3,000 people, I think he means me in this case. They were part of the 100,000 people asking Trump to denounce white supremacy and just asking him to wait 1 week before making a visit. Plus, they were angry about his remark that the Jews, quote, should have armed themselves and this wouldn't have happened, end quote. Again, victim blaming. So, that's the first message here. I was not able to find any source on the 100,000 person protest. But I believe I know what she's talking about. With people asking Trump to condemn white supremacy before he came to Pittsburgh.
Well, not only that, but the leadership in Pittsburgh, the mayor, various other civic leaders, asked him to hold off coming because, for those who don't know, Jews bury their dead within 24 to 48 hours, and then there's a period of mourning called sitting Shiva, which lasts for a week. And with all of the police trying to defend and secure the funerals and to, make sure people who are sitting Shiva are looked after, there was no way to mount the police presence that is required for a presidential visit. Now, his staff, apparently, he had a bunch of those campaign rallies he does scheduled. And they wanted to do it so that it didn't look like he was going to, this memorial for all of these fallen Jews and then head out to a bunch of campaign rallies. So his staff insisted that he come then. And I think it was really terribly
Timed
and not well thought out. He
could have just canceled some of those events.
Yeah, it made him look like he was uninterested in what the people were going through, that he was basically just doing this for political points.
You'd think his daughter would have warned him.
She went with him. She and Jared went with him. So I think expecting her to speak on what is best for the Jewish community may be asking a bit much.
Yeah. So the second thing is that under George Bush in 2004, he created a cabinet position to monitor and look into anti-Semitic hate crimes. The position has been filled by 3 different leaders, but guess what? Under Donald Trump, they quote-unquote let go the person who was in that office. Oh. And months ago, Secretary of State Pompeo said he would, quote, get right on it when asked by Congress about this open position. Well, guess what? There's still nobody under Trump in this position that Bush created to try and help stop anti-Semitic hate crimes in America.
Well, apparently Pompeo's idea of getting right on it and, most human beings' idea of getting right on it are 2 different things. But I don't think this administration is taking anti-Semitic hate crimes seriously. There was a 57% rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes between 2016 and 2017.
Actually, I believe the rise was 13% or 27%. 57% is the percentage of religiously motivated hate crimes that are against Jews, which is actually about the same that it was previously.
I know it was up 32% in 2016.
Yeah,
And
it's just that it was also previously like 56% or something. It's not, the percentage overall has not changed that much, but it's going up by many percentage points. I'm not using the right terms here. Because hate crimes overall are increasing a lot.
Wonderful.
Yeah. For example, the percentage of hate crimes in total that are against blacks, which are somewhere over 50% of hate crimes, is still the same. But at the same time, they've increased by like 20%.
Well, when you have someone spewing hate from the White House, it, is very likely going to trickle down. And the fact that there are just corners of the internet that are full of people who just, they define themselves by who they hate. It's just,
Also from Becky. And third, this shooter was partially motivated by this hatred of Jews, but he was being fed conspiracy theories about this caravan invasion by Trump. This shooter hated Jews and all immigrants. Trump helped fuel this panic about the hordes at the border. The shooter thought the Jews were funding the caravan somehow, so that's also why the people of Pittsburgh didn't want Trump there. Trump should have respected the wishes of over 100,000 people. Again, don't know the source about that. She also mentions Obama going to a mass shooting at a Baptist church during his presidency, which I actually did mention during the last episode. She said that I should know that Christian churches have had mass shootings too, but I did actually mention that shooting and how I asked you why there was no security at that church. And she also said that hate crimes against Jews have been going down over the past 30 years, but there's been a huge uptick in the past 4 years under Trump and the growth of white supremacist groups that is suddenly making this a lot worse. Now, my counter to that would be that anti-Semitism overall has actually been rising a lot, even before the rise of Trump, just during the 21st century. I mean, Bush didn't just decide to create a position to monitor anti-Semitism for no reason.
No, obviously he felt it was necessary.
During both the Bush administrations and Obama administrations, rise of anti-Semitism was a problem, um, but it really came to a head, I think, after the election of Trump. And
Well, yeah, I think Charlottesville was probably the best example of, you know, that what that anti-Semitic movement looks like uh, when you have these people that are, you know, out marching with tiki torches and running over protesters with their cars and basically, spewing hate.
yeah, I'm just looking at some stuff here. Um, you know, during April 2014, there were at least 3 incidents of swastika drawings on Jewish property in university dorms. UCF, for example, a Jewish student found 9 swastikas carved into walls on her apartment. And UCF is one of the best colleges for Jewish students in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's horrible. That a student found 9 swastikas in her dormitory, and that's one of the best colleges for Jewish students in the country. I'm not
Oh,
trying to say something bad about UCF, by the way. I love you guys. Go Knights. Probably using the
uh,
wrong hand sign there. I just used the sign of the horns for everything.
uh, you know, there are colleges like Vassar and I think it's McNeil in Canada, where the anti-Semitism is rampant and in some cases violent. Um, there was the student body president at the Canadian University who tweeted that he wanted to have a Punch a Zionist day, uh, and he was not removed from office. So I think there's this growing anti-Semitism, and it's dangerous and it's scary because it's coming from the left and the right.
You know, and part of, we mentioned the Nation of Islam earlier. For example, they talk about they exaggerate the role of Jews in the African slave trade. And as I've noted to various friends of mine before, slavery is mentioned in the Bible, but biblical slavery is more like indentured servitude. And the laws about slavery in the Bible are incredibly strict. And if you were, as a Jew, to treat a slave as African slaves were treated in the Americas, I'm pretty sure the prescribed punishment was death.
Yeah,
For the master.
yeah, there are very serious laws in the Torah that have to deal with slavery and the fact that after 7 years you have to give a slave their freedom. But
Like I said, they were much more like what we would call indentured servitude, servants in the Americas, people who chose that role in order to get a better financial position, not somebody who was grabbed up by some asshole.
yeah, and it's become a sort of a trope to blame Jews for everything. So whatever you think of as the worst thing ever, you're going to blame Jews for doing that. And certainly that started with the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was written by the Tsar's secret police in order to stoke anti-Jewish sentiment um, in Russia. And somehow people take that book seriously and think it was actually written by Jews. So it's just...
Well, really, I think it goes back to the idea that the Jews killed Jesus more than anything.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is absurd. The Romans killed Jesus.
Well, by Christian theology, Jesus had to die in order to redeem the sins of the world. So no crucifixion, no Christianity. You know, that story was always going to end up with Jesus dead.
Yeah, and he's like not really dead anyway, according to Christian theology again.
Yeah.
Bring himself back to life as much as he wants, right?
Yeah, not quite sure how that works. Well, I think we have had a good talk.
Yeah. I think this was a good episode. Um,
All right.
so, everybody, I want to see your questions and comments below. If there's anything you'd like us to answer, anything you'd like us to report on, please do tell me. And hopefully I will talk about that in the next episode. This was episode 2 of Jewish Talk with James. We are signing off.